Are you a people pleaser? You ever find yourself holding back on the things that you need to do, or even some of the things that need to be said because you don't want to rock the boat? Well, today's guest is going to help us ditch the mask that we wear and how to stop playing small so that you can truly create the success that you deserve on your terms. Welcome to HAVILAH Friends. I'm your host, HAVILAH Malone, and every week I bring you inside my amazing world of mindfulness teachers, inspirational speakers, business experts, celebrities, and so much more to have the conversations that matter to you. And today's guest has helped thousands of women move from debilitating self-criticism and fear to creating success on their own terms through self-love and authenticity. As a transformational coach and author, she is the creator of the Authenticity Advantage program and hosts Your Heroine's Journey live on Facebook. She's been featured in the LA Times, on ABC's Talk Radio, and on the Maury Povich show. Please welcome my friend, Cat Williford. Hello, Cat.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here with you today. I love what you're up to, and I love the people you get to share. I'm just honored to be in that Hall of Fame, so to speak.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Well, you're doing Hall of Fame worthy work. And so we definitely want to be able to learn more about what it is that you're doing and how it can help each and every one of us, because you work with some pretty extraordinary companies and individuals. I mean, from Walt Disney to Procter and Gamble to even the Philharmonic of Los Angeles. And, you know, no matter what level of success that people experience in life, we can still struggle in certain areas. And so I want you to talk a little bit about what are some of the most common problems and struggles that you're seeing with people?
Yeah, of course, because I've been doing this for 25 years, and I would say there's some things that have stayed constant, and then there are certain things that have, they shift over time. Like, I think collectively we gain wisdom, collectively we become more emotionally intelligent, better with our communication. But honest to goodness, it is communication that I see a lot of breakdown around. And interestingly enough, when I get in there with clients, it's their communication with themselves that we have to pull apart in order for them to be really effective communicators in their family, with their friends, at work. And, you and I both have our own businesses going. So to be really clear in our communications as business owners, we have to be very clear with the communication with ourselves, like to know ourselves, to be able to have that conversation, to know what's up for us right now. And then the second thing that I see so much of, because I work a ton with women, particularly women who are either in their own business or being elevated in a company to new layers and levels of leadership. And honest, it is like they're still waiting for permission. And I think there's something around learning to give ourselves permission. I kind of think we're all 5 years old, like holding some big person's hand saying, can we cross the street now? Can I cross the street to get to my awesome life? Heck yeah, you can,
Yes. Oh my goodness. That piece on permission. I literally was having a conversation earlier, and it was about that, about finally being able to be in a place to give myself permission to do the things that I want and not have to look to my parents or those authority figures and be like, is this okay? Is this good enough? Is this, the right direction? No, to stand in your own power. And you're right. So many people are still to this day, whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years old, still struggling with that piece. Wow.
Yeah. And that is a huge one. It really is. And I firmly believe it is one of the things that elicits, our pretend version of ourselves. If we're waiting for someone to give us permission, then we're not giving ourselves permission to be completely authentic, to be real. We're trying to perform and please and do the right thing or do what we think somebody wants us to do. And then they don't actually know what we're capable of if we're just focusing on what we think they want us to do, they don't know what we can do.
And you know, we don't even know what we can do.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, Avila, to say, you know, and we don't know what we're capable of because we're still in kind of this little person voice in our head.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And speaking of, you know, the communication with ourselves and with other people, you know, we show up in different situations, whether that's at work, dealing with, you know, colleagues, or dealing with employees, or you show up in when you go home, or you're talking with your parents, or you're talking with your own kids. And we sometimes put on masks when we are dealing in certain situations with certain people. And so I want you to identify, or help us to identify, what are some of the masks that we wear in our lives, and is it really serving us?
Yeah, that's it. And you know, that's one of the things, like when I recognized, I guess it was about 10 years ago, that I was wearing some masks, I had to get real with myself. And the mask I was wearing was what I call the Chief Operating Officer of Control. She likes it her way. And she knows how to do everything, so you better listen to her. And she's right. Oh my God, she's exhausting to me and everyone else around. And that's when I really, wow, all this work I've been doing all these years in the spiritual land, and my developing myself as a coach, as a workshop leader, as a trainer, all of those things, I was like, wow, I really like to be in control. I really like to be in control. And so then I started looking at all the other masks, you know, like, what are these masks? I like to have kind of fun names for them. So that's why she's the Chief Operating Officer of Control. And when she's around, there's not a lot of joy for me because I'm very busy orchestrating rather than responding and living and enjoying. She just zaps all joy. I see women wear this mask a lot.
Yes.
When they are moving to new levels of leadership, they think control will keep them safe. And I had to learn, like for me, I was trying to control my body is what I was trying to control. And, you know, at a certain point, a woman's fertility is going to come to a close. And I was not willing to look at that and face that. And so I was doing everything I could to control that, which meant I was controlling my relationship, which meant I was controlling the joy of the relationship. I was trying to control everything. And I was also trying to control that things were slipping away from me, like, you know, beads of mercury on a tile floor. So we all have whatever reason we have. So I believe our psyche is actually pretty smart. And our masks are born a long, long, long time ago. And they're born to help us survive a really challenging situation.
Absolutely.
So, like, I keep them close, you know, hold them dear, thank them, love them, and take them off.
When you said that, it reminded me of before I started doing a lot of the self-development work, and being able to recognize that I too, you know, was wearing masks like we all, you know, do in certain situations. And I used to wear a very masculine mask. And it was like very putting on like that, you know, that front of being in control and being powerful, but not from my authentic, you know, feminine flow of power, but from a direct, hard, like masculine mask. And that was a level of protection that I was putting in place because of not having dealt with my own situation being molested as a child. And not dealing with that, I put on so many like masks and just layers of protection that in hindsight may have served me for a time, but wasn't going to keep serving me in the evolution of who I was becoming and wanted and needed to become. So I think it's beautiful that you have been able to kind of break down and identify, like, here's what these masks are. You also talk about there's a the fairy tale was a fairy tale fine, you know,
fairy
that
tale fine, everything's right. And sometimes we really want it. We need to do that so that we can have a smidgen of hope of believing it, because it's so falling apart, you know. But, you know, I want to speak to the name of the mask I have for what you were describing. I call that man up, be a dude.
Yes.
And there's no, I'm thinking of that, the line from a League of Their Own, where Tom Hanks is the baseball manager of the all women baseball team during World War II. He's like, crying? There's no crying in baseball, and so there's this, like, we feel like we have to be something or behave a certain way. And you're speaking to something that's so important, like to protect ourselves, to keep us safe. And honestly, a lot of times when I'm coaching women in companies say they want the valuable input of diversity from women, from people of color, etc. And I'm like, oh, really? So that's why that policy exists, and that's why everybody's scared to do that, and that there's retribution if people stand up and say something in a meeting. So sometimes the very culture of a company, like, invites our masks because it's not safe sometimes, or we think it's not safe. It doesn't feel safe, and it scares the little one inside. So we wear those masks. Some other ones that I see a lot of are what I call suck it up, buttercup. It's like, one day it'll be about me. It's okay. So I'm just going to make it about this person. We do that in our personal relationships. All right, I'm going to make it about this piece of the job, and then I'll get promoted. So I'm just going to suck it up, and I'm going to keep showing up and doing more and taking on more projects. Yeah.
And so for you, like, what is it that brought you to this transformational work? Because I know a lot of times that it's because of things that we've dealt with in our own lives that then as we start that healing process, it's like, whoa, okay, these tools, like, I needed this. Well, I didn't even know I needed it. And now I have something to be able to share with others. So kind of what was that pivotal point for you that brought you to this type of work?
Well, it was when life brought me to my knees, honestly. And I had donated a kidney to my father, and he died 6 months later anyway.
Wow.
And my world just sort of fell out from underneath me, quite honestly. And I very much collapsed, that I was a failure. Now, interestingly, the kidney transplant was highly successful. But 3 weeks later, everything went crazy. My father had a ruptured appendix. He had no ability to fight the infection because he was on the anti-rejection drug, which diminishes your immune system so that, the new kidney stays in. And then he had a stroke, and then it was just like one thing after another. And this was not an old man. He was only 56 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so I was brought to this feeling like I was this doomed failure in life, and just walked around with this cloud over my head. And so around that same time, I was a theater performer. I was an actress. I was living in LA at the time, but my heart was always in theater. And I noticed how little joy I had for what I'd always loved. Like, I've been on stage since I was a kid. And I was part of an organization called Women in Theater. Loved that organization, and was on the board. And we brought in someone called a coach. Now, this is like 1991. And he just like brought everybody through, but I felt it was for me only. It was me personally that night. I was the only one that existed.
Like, thank you, I needed this.
And right, exactly. And he brought me through a life purpose exercise. And I was so new to this kind of stuff. I didn't know you weren't supposed to blurt things out loud when other people were in the space, and so it just flew out of my mouth. I couldn't contain it. Know the light of love is inside, share it. And I was reborn in that moment. And I began working with him as a coach, thinking it would help me fuel my passion again for my acting career. And very shortly I said, after working with him for a couple of months, I'm like, Henry, I already do for everybody in my life backstage what you do for me. I want to learn about this. I want to help people. And he said, well, funny enough, my partner and I are going to start training people to be coaches. And I know a good thing when I see it. And I grabbed on, and I was in their first trainings. I was one of the first 6 certified coaches in this country. And I'm proud of that because I feel like there was that part of me that said, no, the light of love is inside, share it. Knew that was the way I was going to be able to stand strong again.
I love that, to be able to be at this pivotal point in your life, and this point where, you know, you're feeling unsatisfied, you're feeling like, you know what, there's something that's missing, for that to show up into your life, for you to recognize it and then actually act upon it so that you can be in alignment with your purpose. And that is truly living an authentic life.
Yes.
And that's something that you help people with being able to do, is really get to that place of authenticity. And we all need that and thrive on it when we're in that flow. And so you even created, and what was kind of inspired out of this journey is the Authenticity Advantage program that you created. So I want you to just talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because when I work with people, when I'm coaching them or training them, what I started to notice, I was noticing the masks, right? And I was noticing why people weren't moving forward. Like, they were incumbent, they had the degrees, they had the training, they had this, they had that, but something was holding them back. Or if someone had like created their own business and they were passionate about it, but they were kind of like showing up, but not showing up, you know? And so I started noticing the masks, and I started noticing that this life of inauthenticity led people to not know how to play, how to engage, you know, and it's true in our personal relationships. If you're hiding your authenticity, your future mate won't know that that's who you are. If you're hiding, if you're trying to be something that society says you should be, if you're trying to look the part, it doesn't work. And in acting, it doesn't work either. You've got to take that emotional ride every single night when you're on stage in a character. You can't phone it in, or that audience is going to go, that sucked, you know? So I learned early on, you got to be real. Even if you're acting, you've got to be real or nobody cares. And so the Authenticity Advantage is really removing those masks. And, you know, the whole the coming from theater, it just made sense. Remove the mask and be real so that you know who you are. And from that came one of my favorite, you know, sayings I've coined out there, which is vulnerability is our greatest strength.
It is.
Because
I used to think that vulnerability was a weakness.
Oh God, ran from it.
I was like, I don't want to be vulnerable. Like, then people think I'm weak and they'll try to walk over me and then they won't respect me. And come to find out, and it was through experience and putting myself out there and allowing people to see the tears, allowing them to feel my pain and showing up in that way, that I was like, wow, I healed and helped so many more people by being real and letting the walls down. I was like, whoa, vulnerability is actually strength. Like, that is what it is. Yes. And it's just such a beautiful thing to be able to embrace and understand, but you understand it through the experience of it. So I love that you've created, you know, a program and created processes to help people get to that space in their lives. And you talk about, you're like, we need to be writing our chapter. Like, we write the new chapter in your life and write it now. And a lot of times people are like, you know what, but it's not the right time and it's not the right conditions. And I'm gonna wait till the kids leave and I'm gonna wait till the situation, you know, fixes itself and then I will take the step. But why is it important to do it right now? And where can people start?
That's great. You know, and it's once we remove the masks, and that is part of what my process is, helping clients remove those masks and getting very, very clear on their desire, their authentic desire, their authentic longing, their authentic vision, their authentic gifts. And that becomes a little bit like catnip. We want more and more and more of that once we start to touch on it. And there is still that knee-jerk kind of protector inside that says, well, it's not the right time. And what I heard in some of what you talked about, I'm like, well, I need to wait till the kids are out of the house. If this, then that. Suck it up, buttercup, baby. Really. And so why we do those things is we're still attached to the mask. And that's that next story, that next chapter cannot get developed fully until we put that mask aside. Now it's going to come back again. I love working with people to give them the tools so that they know that, oh wait, that's the mask. I get it. It's the mask. It's not me. Okay. But taking, some people's giant leap is someone else's tiny little step. So I like to help clients not think about giant steps or side steps or teeny tiny steps. It's what is that next thing calling to you? What is calling you forward? Because when we can tap into what's calling them forward, they can find a way today with the kids at home, in the same stinking job, in the same stinking marriage, in the same stinking city, house, blah, 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 that they think needs to change before anything good happens. They can find that way. And oftentimes by stepping in and living into that next story, those other things start to resolve. So when we take our attention off what we think is an excuse, what we think isn't what we want, and we focus on what it is we do want with structure and support, magic happens.
And I am all about the magic. And speaking of, because you have tools to be able to help people to actually accomplish these goals. And I am so into like the Oprah moments. So you actually have a free gift that you're going to be sharing with our audience today, which I'm so excited about. So Cat is going to be giving away a set of mini authenticity advantage affirmation cards. Yes. We need those affirmations in our life. We need, to be able to have that daily reprogramming process and the tools to be able to do that so that we can get clear about what we want and go in the direction that we want so that we can create our own success. So please tell everybody how they can get their set of mini affirmation cards.
Yes. I'd love to. And so I've got clients using them. I have actually, she's a dear friend of mine, and she's a yoga instructor, and she pulls one for every yoga class. So she's taken it beyond just the personal. So I want to give that invitation out there. Anyway, so if you go to my website, www.catwilliford.com, CATWILLIFORD.com, and you look on the right-hand side, you'll see where you can put your name in and your email, and boom, you're going to get those affirmation cards. You can directly download it there. You'll also get an email with the link. So if you want to print, now here's the thing, print them out. Okay. They're in a PDF that is lined up front and back, print out both sides, and, have fun with them. I draw one every morning and I set my intention around it. And it's so funny. There's some cards I'm like, oh, I know I'm going to draw that one and it's going to make me look here. I'm like, oh, there it is. I just drew it. Okay, this is where I got to look. And each card is designed to look at a certain aspect of authenticity, what will keep us in the flow and what will keep us moving into our vision and our dream. So I love them. I use them every day. It's part of my, meditate, journal, draw card.
Yes, if you want a tool for your toolkit of self-development and personal authenticity, then this is a tool for you, and it's a free gift, so go get it. And
yeah, and they're focus cards, and like there's the affirmation and there's a question you get to kind of ponder on all day long. So it keeps it alive.
Pondering on things, because you definitely want to stay connected with Cat. She has such amazing information. She's so generous in sharing, and she actually hosts a live Facebook show called Your Heroine's Journey. So how can people tune into your show, and kind of what's a little bit of what you talk about on the show?
great. You know what? I developed this really seeing that the hero's journey, which is talked about a lot, is very masculine energied. And my first version of Authenticity Advantage was the Modern Goddess. I'm all about the female, the goddess energy, circle work with women, getting into our strength and power there. Not that I don't love my dudes. I love my dudes. I love a good masculine dude like nobody's business. But for women, we need to embrace both our masculine and feminine. And I saw so much of not embracing the feminine, particularly when I first started my business. So I'm on a tangent, and I'm sorry I go on these tangents.
Where do people go to tune into your show so they can get
your heroine's journey? If you can go to my Facebook group, The Authenticity Advantage, and that's where the show lives. That's where it's hosted live. It's every other Tuesday, and I take on topics like today. I took on a pretty meaty topic: sick, emotional, the past's sneak attacks. So, I really am down. I'm getting underneath the hood. This isn't just like a, hey, feel good. I'm giving the goods on my story. I'm sharing my story vulnerably so people can learn from that wisdom that I gained, and then take my tools straight into their life. The more I share my tools, the more I know I'm living my life purpose. Know the light of love is inside, share it. And so that's what this show for me is about. And I truly believe when we come together and celebrate being a woman, being on this heroine's journey, we write the next chapters. They almost write themselves.
Yes. If you're ready for your next chapter, make sure you check out Cat at catwilliford.com and on her Facebook page to check out your heroine's journey. So we know that when we share our stories, we get to live, to learn, and to love a little bit more. And it's time for you to be proof of what's possible. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of HAVILAH Friends. I'm your host, HAVILAH Malone, and make sure you check us out every week by following us on YouTube and Facebook. Have an amazing day.